Hello, this is Mrs. Ross, and these are Module C, Unit 3, Lesson 2 notes. I'm going to go ahead and head down towards 150. This is 149. Here's 150, and then I'm going to zoom because I can't see it. Oh, that's too far. Okay. So living things in a forest floor. So it says insects are not the only living things in a forest floor. So insects, spiders, fungi, snails, mosses, worms, or a toad, vines, ferns, other plants, lots of living things on the forest floor. The log is living. Well, it says it's no longer alive. It was living. It's no longer alive. So non-living things on the forest floor, let's see. Non-living parts include rocks, nutrients, air, and water, and the log. Okay, so let's see. So we did those first two. What does it mean that ecosystems are dynamic? That's going to be on page 151, so we're going to scroll down. Ecosystems are dynamic, which means their characteristics can change over time. Their characteristics can change over time. And what advantage do ecosystems have with high biodiversity? So let's see if we can find that one. Ecosystems with high biodiversity can recover from changes more easily than those with less diversity. Ecosystems with high biodiversity can recover from changes more easily than those with less diversity. So, quick check, which statement best describes ecosystems? It's going to be B. They constantly change in different ways over time. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll down. 152, example of gradual changes to ecosystems. Gradual changes to ecosystems are going on all the time. For example, changes may take place slowly in a pond or lake. So you could say sediment builds up over time in a body of water. That's an example of a gradual change. And then we talk about eutrophication. Eutrophication is it's sediment buildup that leads to the pond becoming land, actually. But if we're going to write something down here, I would write, during this process, nutrients from plants and rock minerals dissolve in the pond water. So, and it just becomes a place where plants grow and algae grows, and that's eutrophication. Examples of sudden changes to ecosystems, let's see. Sudden changes, forest fires, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, and floods are sudden changes. Forest fires, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, and floods. And then the definition of disturbances or disturbance is an event that causes changes to the living or non-living parts of an ecosystem. An event that causes changes to the living or non-living parts of an ecosystem. So let's see where we are here. Oops, sorry. Okay. So what two things cause disturbances? This is on the same page. So it says some disturbances are natural processes. Other disturbances are caused by humans. So what I would put for number one, I would put natural processes. And for number two, I would put humans. Both of those things cause disturbances. So then we have some more quick checks. Which of these might result from the process of natural eutrophication? So this is, which of these? So a pond could become a meadow from natural eutrophication. So basically it's when water has an overgrowth of stuff in it, nutrients, etc. And then the picture shows a dam built on a river. A dam is a type of man-made disturbance to an ecosystem. Describe how the dam would affect the ecosystem behind and in front of the dam. So let me grab that. Okay, so I have behind here and in front of here. So behind, I have water will collect. And you should write what I say, not what I write. So it's going to form a lake or a pond. It's going to flood the land. And it's going to make a new ecosystem. So hopefully you're writing more than just that. In front of the dam, the water levels will drop. It's going to expose more land. It's going to cause plants to grow. and it could change the kinds of fish. Okay, now part of this is all one quick check. So predict how a dam might affect the fish that live and breed in the river. It could hinder their ability to reach the breeding grounds blocked by the dam. It could hinder their ability to reach the breeding grounds blocked by the dam. Okay. All right. So hopefully you got everything I said, not everything I wrote. Succession. So this is going to be on page 154. We're on 152. So this is 153. This is 154. Succession. The process of recovery and change that happens after a disturbance. The process of recovery and change that happens after a disturbance. And then if we read a little bit further, succession begins when certain organisms called pioneer species begin to grow. So pioneer species are the very first organisms to grow after a disturbance. Pioneer species are the very first organisms to grow after a disturbance. So let's take a look at this quick check. What is the first step in the eutrophication of a pond? It's going to be the excess nutrients that build up in the water. Oh, and then we're back to the book, 155. So I think this is 154. So 154, here's 155. Okay, what can happen with the introduction of a non-native species? An ecosystem disturbance can be caused by the introduction of a non-native species. So you could say an ecosystem disturbance, and then the negative effect of gray squirrels in England. So let's see. Introduce several locations, species, total population. Red squirrels are native, larger. They have, okay, so the gray squirrels took over the red squirrels' resources. The gray squirrels took over the red squirrels' resources, and the red squirrel population decreased across Europe. The gray squirrels took over much of the red squirrels' resources, and the red squirrel population decreased. What is a positive effect of the gray squirrels? They have very few predators. They eat a large variety of food. They're larger and more aggressive than red squirrels. So you could say they eat a larger variety of food. They have very few predators. They're more aggressive than red squirrels. Those are all in the animal kingdom positives. What happened? Oh, we're right here. Okay. So the next one is a quick check. And it says, the diagram shows two species of bird that normally live in different ecosystems. Finch 1 eats only small insects. Finch 2 can eat small and large insects. Predict what might happen to the population of Finch 1 if a population of Finch 2 is introduced into the ecosystem where Finch 1 is the native species. So this is what would happen. Finch 1 population would decrease because the competition for food with Finch 2. And you should write that in a way that you can understand it. But this is all one quick check right here. So Finch 1 population would decrease because of the competition for food with Finch 2. And then the second part of this is Finch 1 are small, fast birds. Finch 2 are large and relatively slow. Predict the introduction of Finch 2 might affect, let's try that again. Predict how the introduction of Finch 2 might affect a population of hawks living in the ecosystem. Hawks might increase. Hawks might increase because they would have more food because of the introduction of Finch 2. So the hawk population might increase because they would have more food. Hawks eat finches, BT dubs. So they would have more food to eat because of the introduction of Finch 2. Okay, so now we're on to 157. I don't know what page I'm on, honestly. What page is that? What page is this? That's 156. This is 157. Cool. What three things can cause large changes in parts of an ecosystem? Here we go. The removal of a single species, 1, a reduced food source, 2, or a change in temperature, 3, can cause large changes in other parts of the ecosystems. So the removal of a single species, 1, a reduced food source, 2, or a change in temperature, 3, can cause large changes in other parts of the ecosystem. So that's all 3 of those. Oh gosh. Okay. Down here, populations that depend on disturbance. So that's 160. So this is 158, 159. This is 160, and there's the title, populations that depend on disturbance. Example of a population that depends on fire. Okay, so it says scientists begin to recognize that fires are important to the health of the forest ecosystem. They realize that a forest ecosystem becomes unhealthy if fires do not periodically occur. So what I would say is an example of a population that depends on fire. So actually that's down here. Some populations depend on fires. For example, populations of sequoias, a type of red tree, depend on forest fires to reproduce. So you could say sequoias, S-E-Q-U-O-I-A-S. And why do sequoias need low intensity fire? They need low intensity fire to release seeds from their cones and reduce competition from other species. So right here for 1 and 2, 1 would be to release seeds from their cones and reduce competition from other species. Okay, let's see what that is. It ecological succession? All right, that's going to be on page 161. I don't know why it has a line through it. So there we go. Ecological succession is the process of regrowth and recovery in an ecosystem after a disturbance. The two main, okay, so we've got to get that down. Ecological succession is the process of regrowth and recovery in an ecosystem after a disturbance. So where does the primary succession occur? Primary succession happens in an environment where a disturbance removed soil or exposed bare rock. Primary succession happens in an environment where a disturbance removed soil or exposed bare rock. Okay, so stages of ecological succession. Page 161. What page am I on? 161! Okay. Stages. Are these the stages? The earliest stage of primary succession involves the growth of lichens and mosses. So for number 1 here in stages of ecological succession would be the growth of lichens and mosses. It says the remains of dead mosses, lichens, and other organisms build up. Forming soil. So that would be the second one. The remains of dead mosses, lichens, and other organisms build up, forming soil. And then number 3 would be as soil builds up, grasses and other small plants begin to grow. So we start with the growth of lichens and mosses. After those die and other organisms build up, we form soil. After the soil is formed, grasses and small plants begin to grow. It says, when does secondary succession take place? Secondary succession takes place after a disturbance disrupts ecosystem processes and removes some of the living parts of the ecosystem. Secondary succession takes place after a disturbance disrupts ecosystem processes and removes some of the living parts of the ecosystem. Okay, so let's see. Oh, so is primary or secondary succession faster? Secondary succession takes place faster than primary succession. Secondary succession takes place faster than primary succession. All right, let's answer some quick check questions. So this says some grass species need fire in order for their seeds to germinate. Why might this adaptation be useful for grasses? It's going to be because the seeds can germinate in an area that's been cleared by fire. And then we have the diagram models succession in an ecosystem. That's this, diagram. How can you